What is going on YouTube, and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be breaking down how I basically plan my goals every new year. Today is December 24th, which means it is Christmas Eve. By the time you watch this, it will be 2 days away from the new year, which means this is the time of year where everybody gets very excited about setting goals and what they plan on accomplishing in the near future, or in that year, in the next year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down in this video basically how I approach every New Year's, and I do it every single year. First thing I always do is I look back on my previous year, basically to see where I'm currently at. So I look at my previous goals from the previous years, I review them, I see if I hit them, I see if I accomplished them. The ones I did accomplish, what I'll do is I'll focus on what characteristics and attributes I use to accomplish those goals. And then it never fails, you're always going to have some goals that you did not accomplish, you did not achieve. So I do the same process with that. I go through and I look at, okay, why didn't I not accomplish that? What could I do differently? There's two questions that I'm always going to ask myself basically when it comes to reviewing any part of my life. And I'll write these two questions down. So first question is anytime you look back on something you did, first question I ask myself is, what did I do really well? So for instance, one of my goals was, actually let's review all my goals for 2024 of the things I wanted to accomplish. So number one thing I wanted to accomplish is I wanted to complete a trifecta weekend. I've done the trifectas, basically a Spartan Sprint, Spartan Super, and a Spartan Beast, but I've done them all on separate weekends. So one of my goals for 2024 was I wanted to do the trifecta weekend, which means you complete them all in one. Looking back, I did that, so I could check that box. What did I do well for that? Obviously, I completed them. I went in, I had a whole video separate, basically breaking down my recap of that weekend. So I'm not really going to go over all of that. If you want to watch that, just watch the recap video. What could I have done differently, though, in this aspect, which I talked about in the video? I would have done more grip strength training. I would have done more hills. I would have done more dead hangs. I would have focused more on my grip. So that's one of the goals I wanted to accomplish. Another goal I wanted to accomplish was the high rocks. So what did I do well? I thought I prepped really well for it. I thought my schedule was really good. I thought I incorporated enough strength, enough cardio. What would I have done better? Actually, I probably would have incorporated more cardio. I probably would have focused more on running fast, not just zone 2 training. I'm not going to go through all my goals, but that's basically the process that I take. Is one of the goals, for instance, I kind of focus on goals in all of my 4 pillars. So faith, family, fitness, and then finance. So faith goals last year, I really wanted to start incorporating praying with me and my family every single day. So what did I do well? I did really well we pray every night for dinner. My daughter now expects us to pray. If we don't pray, she usually corrects us and say we need to pray. So I did that really well. What could I have done better? I think I want to start incorporating praying before we go to bed. I did that a couple times, but I wasn't consistent with it. And I think that would be a very good time to start teaching my daughter basically the attitude of gratitude right before you go to bed. So moving forward, that's kind of how I approach the next year. Is I'm going to look at all my areas of what I did well, basically transfer that over if I still want to maintain that, and then every answer that I get to the what could I have done better, that's what I'm going to basically take to 2025. So faith, that was my goal. When it comes to fitness, like I said, I wanted to complete the trifecta weekend. I wanted to complete a deca trifecta, which I did that. I wanted to complete a high rocks, which I did that. And that was basically my fitness goal. So I completed all those. What did I want to do? What could I have done better? I'll talk about in 2025. So I got faith, fitness. I need family. Family, I need to work on, and I did a terrible job on this last year. What could I have done better? I was very intentional about basically having a connection with Cassie, day-to-day connection, like making sure that when I come home from work, I give her a kiss, I hold her, I hug her. What could I have done better? I feel like I always could improve on that. Like for instance, when we're watching our shows and everything, instead of sitting on separate couches, maybe sit right next to her as if we're dating, and hold her. Kind of be more intentional with that. I know she greatly appreciates that, and I know that's where we can basically strengthen our connection with each other. So moving forward, that's what I plan on doing. When it comes to finance, I actually I increase my income as a teacher by picking up some extra stuff. My income always increases every single year, but by me working on my prep, it raised my income a little bit more to help out just for extra stuff Cassie and I want to do around the house. Or if she, extra stuff when it comes to buying Amazon purchases, being able to get a ski erg for my gym, stuff like that. So I basically covered that. Now, let's look at 2025. Moving forward, what my goals are. All right, so we're taking the same approach now when it comes to faith. My faith goals for 2025, I really want to find, I think we know what church we'd like to go to, but however, I want to start attending church, even if it's virtually. I really want to get into the habit of setting in my schedule along with Cassie and Adeline's schedule where it's like, hey, every Sunday morning or every Saturday night, whatever it may be, church is non-negotiable. Like I said, even if it's just a matter of first virtually watching it, because we have that option, which that makes it, there's really no excuse other than we're just not putting it at the front of what we're trying to do. And we had a conversation about that. So that's one of them, is to start attending church. That way my daughter can also kind of see the whole church process. Hopefully it could even lead to her meeting some other kids because they usually have like little youth groups and stuff like that. So that would be really cool for her to meet people that also come from a religious background. Another goal of mine for when it comes to faith is I really want to get better at, I've read the Bible in a year. I've done it a couple times, but I really want to get, like, now that I read the entire book all the way through, I kind of know what books I really enjoy reading, what parts of the Bible I really enjoy reading, and I want to dive more into that. So instead of just, hey, I woke up and I read the Bible, I want to, my goal is to read a Psalm every day, a Proverbs every day, and then basically just focus on the New Testament and just read through the New Testament every single day. My goal is to shoot for about 30 minutes every single morning, or 30 minutes every single day. Again, that is what I'm shooting for, and then we'll reassess, obviously, after the first year, or the first month. I'm not going to wait until the end of the year. But that's when it comes basically down to my faith. When it comes to my family goals, Cassie and I really want to get back to having like a date night once a month. We always talk about it. Once a week would be ideal. And I think we need to basically define what a date looks like. I mean, it may not be like, hey, we physically go to dinner, we go to a movie. It may be just like, hey, we're going to be very intentional. We're going to go in the backyard. We're going to have 30 minutes where we just sit and we enjoy each other's company. We talk about our goals. We talk about stuff that's bothering us, like literally just date. And I think our concept, or where we struggle, is we make a big deal about it. Like, we got to go somewhere, we got to do something, we got to get a babysitter. And I think moving forward, that's going to be my goal with that, is just be more intentional about having one-on-one time. Like I said, no matter, even if it's 15 minutes, being intentional about, like, hey, this is our time. So that would be the family. As for when it comes to, I really am enjoying instilling values and stuff in my daughter at this age. So just keep leading by example, keep showing her values, keep instilling religion into her. I know she's mentioned God a lot more this year, which is really cool. But I want to lead by example by basically showing her that I have a relationship with God. As for fitness, I got some big goals this year, and I'll talk about the biggest one. Another one I'm going to go back to. I do it every single year. I want to complete the trifecta again. I don't know if I'm going to do a trifecta weekend, which I'll explain why I'm not going to do that again. But I would like to complete the sprint, the super, and the beast. I want to complete a high rocks. I want to complete the DECA trifecta, which that's the DECA strong, DECA mile, and DECA fit. If I'm being honest about all the events I've ever done, my favorite event, hands down, is the DECA fit. I really, if they had more of those, like if I could do one of those a month, I probably would just run those all the time. I really enjoy those. Those and like the Spartan sprints and super. Those are what I absolutely love. The high rocks is cool. And I'll probably do it again, like I said, but when it comes to like my favorite races, it's probably going to be DECA Fit and the Spartans. That's why I plan on doing maybe a couple Spartan sprints this year. If you guys are going to be doing Spartan sprints or Spartan supers, comment below which ones you're looking at. Maybe we can link up if you're doing any in SoCal. As for my biggest challenge that I will be accomplishing this year, I already signed up for it. It's on April 5th. This year my goal is to complete my first Spartan Ultra. Now, I've never done a marathon. I know a lot of you guys have said, hey, you should do a marathon. And to be honest, I think a marathon might be a little bit easier. Now, I say that like with, I'm not saying a marathon's easy. If you're prepping for a marathon, I know it takes a lot of time. I think what scares me about the Ultra, though, if you're not familiar with it, so a Spartan Ultra is a 50K, which if I did the math right, it's basically 31 miles. But in that 31 miles, you're doing 60 obstacles. So if I'm being honest, what scares me is obviously the distance. I've never run over probably 14 miles because usually the Beast it's a 13-mile race, but usually there's some extra if you do penalty loops. So I've never ran over 14 miles, so it's basically double that, and that scares me. So it's the running aspect, right, that scares the mess out of me. But then it's also the 60 obstacles because I know how my body felt after I did Beast, which is 30 obstacles. And from the couple subscribers that have reached out talking about Spartan Ultras, which I really appreciate you guys' feedback, it sounds like it's a loop. So you do, 15 miles or whatever with 30 obstacles. There's a resting station, and then you run it back and you do it again. That part scares the mess out of me because I know how the mind works. And once I get into that transition, I could see me be like, I don't want to go back out there, which I've heard that's the hardest part is you kind of sit, you get comfortable, and then you dip out, which I'll talk about my whole thought process as I go into the training for it. But yes, April 5th, I believe it's in NorCal. I forgot where it's exactly, but it is the Spartan Ultra. And it scares the mess out of me. I told Cassie, I told my mom and dad, they will be there, so we'll probably go up there like Friday, come back, do the race Saturday. Got to wake up early. I'll go into the details about that in another video. And then we'll probably come back Sunday. So that's my fitness goals as for 2025. Finance goals, like I said, I've been talking with my principal about possibly being like the strength and conditioning coach for my high school. And he said if I want it, it's basically there. Which that would be another opportunity for me to provide for my family and give a little bit more financial freedom to us. So I've been thinking about that. However, my main thing that I just listed off my goals for the entire year. So basically, I want to accomplish all those goals, even the fitness side of goals, but I want to accomplish them. I got to figure out how to phrase this because it's going to sound really bad, but I want to accomplish them with putting in the least amount of time. I want to be the fittest, and when I say fittest, I mean like I want to get super jacked. I want to improve my nutrition, my range of motion, my recovery, which involves sleeping, and I want to do all that with putting in the least amount of time, and I'll explain why. Because in previous years, and I already started it when I started thinking about I'm going to do the Spartan Ultra, it's very easy for me to say, all right, I'm going to work out 7 days a week. 6 of those I'm going to do 2 days. I'm going to do this much running. I'm going to do this much lifting. It's easy for me to throw it out there and then go out there and execute. But if I'm being honest with you guys, the stuff that has transpired in my life in the past month has kind of made me shift my focus to the point of like going back to what my values are in my life. And 2024 wasn't the best year when it comes to life for Cassie and I. So for instance, I had an uncle pass away. She had an aunt pass away. My dad had obviously open heart surgery. Someone very close to me just lost her husband like literally last week. And she has a 3-year-old little girl and like a 1-year-old little boy. And she's my age. We know someone also that was diagnosed with cancer this year. And apparently it's not, Cassie said it's not a very good cancer. I mean, obviously no cancer is a good cancer, but she said like its average lifespan after that is like 5 years, which is terrible, especially because she has 3 boys. So there's a lot going on that has kind of made me just think like the one that really shocked me was the one that was, like I said, last week. That girl was very close to Cassie and I. And when she told me that her husband passed away, that was just like a shock, because you obviously lose people in your life, but when they're young, it just hits a little bit different. And that one hit me because I was just thinking, like, if something happened to me, I don't ever, like, the fact or the thought of having Adeline say, "Where's Daddy?" or "When's Daddy coming home?" Or if something was to happen to my wife, that scares the mess out of me, because even when my wife leaves for like 10 minutes, Adeline will be like, "When's Mommy coming home?" And I'll be like, "Oh, she's soon." And I'm so blessed that I'm able to say, "Oh, she'll be home soon." I pray that I never have to explain to her that she's not coming home, because that's like the worst thing to ever think of. I also follow Nick Bear. I saw what happened with him. I think it was last week or something, when he got into a car accident. Or he didn't get into a car accident, but he got hit by an SUV. That's very serious. I mean, he could have lost his life. And it's crazy because in literally my last video or 2 videos ago, I was talking about how Cassie doesn't like when I run out on the streets because of that specific reason. And that's why I don't really run out on the streets. The streets are obviously better training, but like I said in the other video, happy wife, happy life, like I'm going to do what my wife wants. But at the same time, she is right. I don't want something to happen to me. I don't want Adeline to be like, "Where's Daddy?" Like, that scares the mess out of me. If you have kids, that is the worst thought process of, like, thinking of. And I don't want that to happen. So the reason why I say all this is because it also made me think, like, if I devote all this time to my fitness goals, and hear me out here, I'm not saying just stop what you're doing, live in fear, spend all your time with your family because something might happen, and don't live your life. That's not what I'm saying. But I think what it comes down to, and like in Nick Bear's video, he was talking about the difference between complacent and content. And I think, if I'm being honest, just from the outside looking in, when he says he's always trying to, do the next thing, I think that comes down to his brand, and what he built his image and his identity around is literally go one more. So even when you're finished, you got to do more. You got to do more. And like, subconsciously, if you're feeding that to yourself, you identify as someone that I'm always going extra. It's going to be very hard to kind of just shut that off and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be content." Again, that's just from the outside looking in. I know me personally, I'm always kind of like, I identify as someone who's fit. I identify as someone who wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and people are like, "Oh, he's always up." And like, that's something I even struggle with, because again, at the end of the day, it's like, what's the point? Obviously, you're trying to get better, right? I don't want to be the average dad. That is my goal. But when I look at all areas of my life, faith, family, fitness, finance, the one that I said this before, the one that I get most excited about when someone compliments me, it's not about like, "Oh, you're really fit," or "You're strong," or you have discipline," or "You're a great teacher." The ones that really mean the most to me are when someone says I'm a great father, and they say, like, they could see that my daughter is my entire world. And that, like, when people will say, like, "Man, you're a really good husband." Like, those are the two. I don't care. I don't want to be known as an amazing teacher. Now, that doesn't mean I don't go out and try to be an amazing teacher. But what I'm getting at, and something I'm going to try and focus on this year, is how can I be the best at those with putting in the least amount of time? Because if I put in the least amount of time, then that means I have more time to put towards those things, if that makes sense. So as opposed to, "Hey, I'm going to train 7 days a week, and I'm going to go out and put in all this time, and at the end of the race probably have a really good time and be proud of it." But then I look back on all the time I sacrificed with that I could have been with my wife. I went to bed early. I could have spent time with my daughter, but I had to wake up early. All of those aspects, I want to challenge myself and be like, okay, let me see if I could do the bare minimum, right? And still be able to go out and complete one of these races, if that makes sense. And I know that's kind of like a shift in my whole paradigm and kind of what I'm going at, but it's kind of in this sense, like, I used to work with this guy who he saved like all his life, right? He was a teacher when I actually went to the school, and then when I started, he was teaching. I want to say he was in his last year of retirement. So he taught my older brother. I think he taught my older sister. So like, we've kind of known him. The guy literally lived like right around the street from the corner. He walked to school every single day. I don't even think he had a car. He didn't have a cell phone. He didn't believe in them. He was just kind of old school. He was very, they referred to him as frugal with his money. He always saved it. He had really good investments. Obviously, as a teacher, you have really good retirement. So he was set. And it was like 2 months before his retirement. He walked to the grocery store. This was during COVID time. And I want to say he had a stroke or a heart attack or something in the grocery store, and he passed away 2 months before retirement. So he spent his whole life like saving and doing everything he was supposed to in the hopes of that when I retire, I'm going to be set. And I'm not saying he didn't enjoy his life or anything, but like, you saved all that money and you don't even get to reap the benefits. And in that sense, it's like you sacrifice. I mean, what if there was stuff that he wanted to buy, but he's like, no, I got to save for the future. And again, there's a fine line. There's a fine line with what I'm saying. I'm not saying just go out and spend all your money, but it's like you got to live every day in the moment and while you plan to enjoy the future, if that makes sense. So like when it comes to prepping for the Spartan Ultra, I like I said, I had it factored out that 7 days a week I was going to be working out. 6 of those I was going to be running. I was going to be running 6 days a week. I was going to be lifting 5 days a week. So it wasn't like every day I was going to be running and lifting, but there was, I think, only 2 days that one day I like ran only, and then one day I lifted only. That's a lot of time that I'm sacrificing. And again, I see it as, let me see what the bare minimum that I can do and still, obviously, NYAD, not your average dad, that's what I'm shooting for. Look not like your average dad. Perform not like your average dad, right? Feel not like your average dad. But at the same time, do the bare minimum, because the reason why fathers don't go out and do this stuff is because they're always saying, I don't have time. I want to figure this out. I want to figure out a way that it's like, you don't need time. You don't need that much time. When I'm saying I'm working out 7 days a week and then 6 of those days are twice a day, yeah, that's a lot of work. A lot of dads can't do that because they might commute, they might work 5 days a week, 10-hour days, whatever it may be. My goal, like I said, is I want to be able to perform. Like if there's a Spartan next month, I want to be able to go out and complete it, do it. At the end of it, not feel like I got hit by a bus. Perform, right? Push myself for that hour or whatever long the race is. But then go back to my normal routine and not have it take away from my time with my wife, time with my daughter. Obviously, you will have to sacrifice some time. I'm not saying it's just going to be like, oh, I could sleep, I could go to bed with them, I could sleep in as long as I want. Like, no, you got to make sacrifices. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be dialing that back, the amount of sacrifices I'm making to achieve my goals. Alright, so you're probably wondering, why did I change shirts? Why does the background look different? Or you're not wondering at all, but I'm going to let you know right now, I was editing this video and apparently the last clip of it never recorded. So now it's a couple days later and I'm basically reshooting what I was going to say. So I will wrap up the video in this clip. So all in all, what I'm getting at is we're living in a generation right now where it's like people feel, and I don't know, this may just be me, but I feel like people feel that they have to be the David Goggins, they have to be the Cameron Haynes, they have to be the Nick Bear, they have to be whoever it is that you follow on social media. There's a lot of people, I see it all the time, where it's like a full week of training and they're putting in 7 days a week, and it's like, okay, that's what I have to do to be at that level. However, a lot of these people, that is what they do for their livelihood. Like, they are quote unquote content creators, where it's like that's all they do. They got to wake up, they got to film the content, they got to shoot the content, they got to edit the content, they got to post the content, and that's it. That is quote unquote their 9 to 5. A lot of them, at least the ones I follow too, like they don't have any families, they don't have any kids, so it's completely different. As opposed to, I know a lot of people that follow this channel, you are a lot like me, where it's like you have a 9 to 5, you have a job that you have to work, you have a family that you're trying to provide for, but at the same time, you're still trying to be the best version of yourself. So when it comes to the new year and you're setting your goals, one thing, the tip I would say is you got to be aware of comparing yourself to others. Try not to compare yourself to others. One thing that I've been focusing on over the past years, and I feel like I've gotten better at it, I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm getting better at comparing myself to my results from last year. That is why I am a big believer that I think you should sign up for certain races. That's what I love about doing the Spartan races, is all my information and all my times are tracked online. Same with the DECA, same with the High Rocks. So when you run it back, especially if you're on the same course, you now have a time that you want to beat. So that's one thing that I'm always trying to do is, like, for instance, when I go and do the Spartan Sprint again, I'm going to try and beat my previous time, because that's basically the result. If you beat your time, that is the result of all the hard work you put in the year prior. Even if you don't look the way you want to look, like, or you weigh the amount you want to weigh, your time and how you do at the race will basically justify or show you that you have improved over the year. That's why I'm a huge believer that you should be signing up for races. Another tip when it comes to the new year is a lot of people get very excited at the beginning of the year because they're fired up. They feel like it's a fresh start. They feel like they can reset. A lot of the pages that I follow, they're talking about 30-day challenge, 40-day challenge, different stuff, and it's great because it gets you fired up. And I think, like I said, if someone gets you fired up to go out and do something, I think you should do it. But it always makes me think of literally Newton's 3 laws of motion. So one of his laws states that an object at rest will remain at rest, and an object in motion will remain in motion unless an outside force acts upon it. So let's look at the first part. So a lot of people, the average American throughout the year, is at rest. They're remaining at rest, and therefore they're staying at rest, because it is very, very difficult to start. That is the hardest part. Now, when the new year comes around, a lot of people are fired up to start. They're excited to start. So the starting is not that hard. And the good thing is like the law states, an object in motion will remain in motion, meaning once you take that first step to start, you're creating motion, therefore you're going to remain in motion. The problem is it says unless an outside force acts upon it. And this is what's going to happen. And you see, when I worked at the gym, we saw it every basically new year. 2 weeks after the new year, everybody basically went back to, the gym went back to how it was. It's less crowded. People kind of fall off. They don't want to stick with it anymore, and they just aren't fired up anymore. The motivation, the willpower, the things that were basically keeping them going for the first 2 weeks is kind of disintegrated, and now they just fall back in their habits, especially if they're trying to break a habit that they've been doing for the past 10 years. That's very, very difficult to break. Now, the third law also states, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Meaning, when one object exerts a force on another, the second object exerts a force back on that first that is equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So what that means is, I'm a firm believer, I've experienced this firsthand, when you are very fired up and you have all the motivation and all the willpower and you just go out and you hit your goal and you're firing on all cylinders, you're attacking everything, you're checking all your boxes, you're stacking all your wins, you're building a lot of momentum, it never ever fails that as you're going this way, something in life is coming this way, and it's going to hit you with the exact force, and as soon as you hit, that's when you get derailed. And it could be a loss of a loved one, it could be a death in the family, it could be a loss of a job, it could be you get sick, it could be you get injured, it could be a lot of different things. And that is, after 34 years of being on this thing called Earth, it's bound to happen. And I think this is where the average American fails when it comes to setting goals, is they don't prepare for that. And a lot of people don't know how to prepare for that. You have to prepare for that the same way that you're preparing for a race. If I'm preparing for a Spartan race, I'm going to go out, I'm going to work out, I'm going to build up my cardio, I'm going to build up my strength, I'm going to build up my endurance, I'm going to eat right, I'm going to do all that stuff. But when it comes to adversity, you have to build up your willpower. Now, one of the ways that I do it, that I feel like it's very effective, is dive into books, read personal development books, find books that will teach you that. I have Adeline, my little girl, I am personally teaching her how to basically deal with setbacks, deal with adversities. Now, at her age, is a lot different. Her setbacks is when we're coloring, she goes out of line. Now, when she goes out of line, that's a big deal for her because now her picture doesn't look pretty. She thinks she's a failure, all this stuff. And I see her little mind basically churning, basically doing a spiral down effect. Now, fast forward when you're my age, 34, and I see a lot of adults, the same thing happens when they get a flat tire, when they get sick, when they get laid off from their job. There's a lot more on the line as you get older, which means you have to basically have more willpower and more mindset. You have to be able to control your mind. You got to be able to control how you respond to adversity. I am a huge believer that you need to read. Now, there's one book that I always read. It's Bible. I would highly recommend that because that just always puts me in a positive state of mind. And then personal development. I got 3 bookshelves filled with books, all just on different topics of dealing with adversity, dealing with obstacles, setting goals, because how else are you going to learn about it? How else are you going to learn to deal with adversity? Now, you're probably thinking, well, as soon as it happens, I'll deal with it. Yeah, that's trial by fire is probably the best way to learn. However, why would you want to go into that fire if you haven't at least have some techniques that you heard, you used, you heard someone tell you, you saw, you read it, you listened to it, whatever it may be? I'm a firm believer that if you are going to set a goal, the amount of time you put into that goal, I feel like at least 20% of that time should be developing yourself. I think that is one of the ways to foolproof your plan and ensure that you are able to achieve your goals. So when it comes to 25, the average American, you'll see it. They'll set their goals, they get fired up, they'll go out there, they'll find a nutrition plan, they'll find a workout plan, and they'll fire on all those. But then as soon as that outside force hits them, since they weren't preparing their mind on how to deal with setbacks, how to deal with adversity, how to overcome obstacles, whatever it is, since they haven't built that muscle up, they'll get derailed, and the average American won't ever accomplish their goals of what they set out for the year. But you already know my motto is don't be average. All the goals that you are setting out for yourself, I would start making a list of books that tie into that. If you want to make more money, I guarantee there's books on how to, you could dive into some financial books. If you want to get closer in your spiritual side, I guarantee there's books on religion that you can dive into. If you want to improve your relationship with your spouse, there's books on that. Trust me, I have them on my shelf. If you want to improve your time management, what time you wake up, how to set a schedule, how to stick to it, guys, there's books on it. I would also ensure you, whatever goals you're trying to accomplish in the 4 pillars, faith, family, fitness, and finance, I would get books geared around that. That's what I do. So if you want to take my approach, the approach that I do every single year, I'd highly recommend whatever goal you set out, find some books on it, read some books, and go to work on your goals. Anyways, that about wraps up this video, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel for the entire previous year of 2024. You guys, the comments and the likes have definitely gone up in my last couple of videos, which I greatly appreciate, because I don't know if you guys, for those of you guys who comment, you know, I enjoy talking to you guys. I enjoy hearing about what goals you guys are doing. Some of you guys are giving me great feedback on different races I'm going to do and just different techniques. If you guys can't tell, I enjoy talking to people, hence why when you guys comment, I always try to hold a conversation with you guys, because I legit want to know what your life is like on the other side of the camera. I do this content obviously because I'm hoping that I can look back on it one day. I'm hoping that my daughter can look back on it one day. But at the same time, I do want to build a community. I mean, that's what this whole NYAD is about. I know there's a lot of dads out there. I know there's a lot of fathers that watch this. And I think the world needs that right now, is strong dads for sure. So if I could find like-minded dads out there and men like me, I'm going to try and link up with you guys. So I appreciate all you guys, like I said, subscribing to the channel, commenting on the videos, liking the videos, sharing the videos. I greatly appreciate that. Obviously, it helps the channel grow. That's another goal for 2025, is obviously just grow this channel, grow the DBA message, start building the NYAD community. That is another one of my goals. But if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up. Comment below again what your goals are for 2024 or 2025. I'm sorry. Because at the end of it, it'd be cool to be able to look back on this video, see what you actually put out in the universe, what you wrote down in the comments, and then be able to basically hold yourself accountable. I will see it. I'll be able to hold you accountable, and we could see if we are actually going to accomplish our goals for 2025. So you guys already know the motto here. Stay happy, stay healthy, and above all, don't be average. I will see you guys next year.